She cheated on my brother, and I pretended I didn't know. Late at night, Leonard stands on the balcony of his house, with an intimate photo of his wife and brother on his cell phone screen. He takes a deep breath and deletes the evidence, a calm smile on his face. The game, it's just beginning, he whispered, so softly that only he could hear. Himself, this is the third time he's discovered Yvonne and Ryan's flirty messages. The first time was 2 weeks ago. A flirty text on his wife's cell phone. The second time was last week when he came home early and heard whispers in his bedroom. And today, company surveillance captured them acting intimately in the office. Leonard pinched his brow and turned off his cell phone. He and Yvonne had been married for 5 years, their careers were thriving, and they were ostensibly a model couple that everyone envied. Who would have thought that betrayal would come from the two people closest to them? Hubby still awake? Yvonne pushed open the balcony door, wearing silk pajamas, her hair still damp from the shower. Leonard turned around and a gentle smile had replaced his face, thinking about tomorrow's project. Working again? She stepped closer and wrapped her arms around him from behind. Don't get too tired. Leonard could smell the familiar scent of her perfume and a hint, if any, of cologne that didn't belong to her. His fingers trembled slightly, but he still gently caressed her arm. You go to sleep first. I'll read some more information. Yvonne nodded and turned to leave. Leonard watched her back, his eyes growing cold. The next morning, Leonard woke up at his usual 7 o'clock and saw that Yvonne had already prepared breakfast. I have a design to submit today, so I'll go first. She hurriedly finished her coffee and kissed his cheek. Leonard smiled and nodded. I have a social engagement tonight. I may be back late. Okay, I'll wait. She picked up her bag and left. Leonard looked at the closed door and took out his cell phone and dialed a number, find out if there have been any recent information leaks at the company. Hanging up the phone, he opened his computer and pulled up a hidden folder. Inside was all the evidence he had collected: call logs, surveillance videos, location information. As a successful entrepreneur, Leonard knows the importance of information. Boss, emergency. The assistant called. The core data of the STAR program has been leaked. Leonard's eyes flashed. Did you find out the source? It's still being traced, but the point in time was between 3 and 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It was the exact time frame that Yvonne came to the office to see him. Leonard gripped his cell phone tightly. Block the news and keep it quiet. I'll be at the office in a minute. Upon arriving at the office, Leonard went straight to the surveillance room. Pulling up yesterday's footage, he sees that Yvonne did indeed stay in his office for nearly half an hour while he was in a meeting. Zoom in here. Leonard pointed at the screen. On the screen, Yvonne seems to linger in front of his computer for a moment. Keep checking. Make sure you find definitive proof, Leonard said to the technical supervisor. Walking out of the surveillance room, Leonard runs into Ryan, a half-brother who is 3 years younger than him and in charge of the marketing department at the company. Brother, I heard that the STAR project is in trouble? Ryan asked with concern. Leonard gazed into his brother's eyes, seeing nothing out of the ordinary. Minor problem. Don't worry about it. Can I help you? No, I can handle it. Leonard patted him on the shoulder. By the way, how's that new project coming along these days? It went well. The investors were interested. Ryan laughed. Speaking of which, Yuching gave me a lot of design suggestions. Really talented. Leonard smiles. Yeah, I'm lucky. As he turned to leave, Leonard's smile disappeared. He knew that this was more than just a derailment, and that there could be a bigger plot hidden behind it. A week later, Leonard hosts a small dinner party at his home for several company executives and partners, to which Yvonne, as hostess, gloriously entertains. Yuching, this house is tastefully decorated, a female guest exclaimed. Yvonne smiled. Thanks, I designed most of it. Leonard came over with his glass of wine and naturally put his arm around his wife's waist. My wife is a well-known designer, and our home is a showroom for her work. Yvonne leaned on his shoulder, playing the role of the loving wife perfectly. Ryan arrives late with a bottle of wine and an unknown female companion. "Sorry, traffic," he said apologetically, but his eyes darted unconsciously to Yvonne. Leonard noticed his wife's momentary stiffness and the deliberate naturalness that followed. "Ryan, who's this?" "Oh, my new assistant," Ryan introduced. Halfway through the dinner, Leonard excuses himself to take a phone call and leaves. He quietly returned to his study, turned on his computer, and pulled up the images from the hidden cameras in his home. Living room, dining room, kitchen. His eyes stopped on the kitchen screen. Yvonne and Ryan are standing in the corner, talking in lowered voices. "Are you crazy? Bringing her here?" Yvonne was visibly angry. Ryan grabbed her wrist. "Relax, it's just the assistant." "Are you jealous? Get out." Yvonne shrugged him off. "We had a deal. We couldn't let Leonard get suspicious." "He doesn't know anything. Don't worry." Ryan moved closer to her. "I missed you." Yvonne pushed him away. "Not here, it's too dangerous." Leonard turns off the screen and takes a deep breath to calm his emotions. He opens the safe and removes a fake file from the STAR project. He places it on his desk in a position where it can be seen by anyone who enters. Back in the living room, Leonard raised his glass and addressed, "Thank you all for coming. We have a new project coming up in the company recently, and we hope to have your support." "What program?" someone asked. "Confidential." Leonard smiled enigmatically, "But I can reveal that this will change the entire landscape of the industry." He noticed the interest that flashed in Ryan's eyes. After the dinner is over and the guests are leaving, Leonard pretends to be drunk and leans back on the sofa with his eyes closed. "I'll see off the last guest," Yvonne said. Leonard nodded, his eyes slightly closed. A few minutes later, he heard light footsteps enter the study. He gets up quietly and stands outside the study door. Through the doorway, he saw Ryan looking through the papers on his desk, even taking pictures with his cell phone. Leonard wordlessly returns to the couch and continues to pretend to be drunk. Shortly afterward, Ryan walks out of the den, looking like his normal self. "Brother, I'll go first," Ryan said. "You've had too much to drink. Get some rest early." "Well, take care on the road," Leonard responded vaguely. Yvonne returned from dropping Ryan off and sighed when she saw her drunk husband drunk again. She helps Leonard back to the bedroom, where he is at her mercy, a plan taking shape in his mind. The next morning, Leonard received a call from the technical department. "Boss, someone is trying to hack into our system, targeting the complete information of the STAR project." "Did you find out who it was?" "The IP address shows it's coming from a competitor, Vision Technology." Leonard sneered. "True enough." He turns on his computer and pulls up the surveillance from last night's study. Ryan captured the very same fake profile he'd so carefully prepared. "Let's see what you guys will do next," Leonard said to himself. "Boss, Vision Technology sent an invitation for cooperation," the assistant reported. Leonard raised an eyebrow. "Oh? What kind of cooperation?" "Their CEO called personally and said he was interested in our STAR project and wanted to co-develop it." Leonard sneered. "About next Wednesday, I'll meet in person." Hanging up the phone, Leonard turned to the window. The plan was just as he expected, and the other man had taken the bait. There was a soft knock on the office door and Ryan walked in. "Brother, I heard that Vision wants to cooperate." Word travels fast. Leonard looked at him meaningfully. "What do you think?" Ryan shrugged. "A rare opportunity, but beware of their true intentions." "I will." Leonard nodded. "By the way, how's your new project with Rainey going?" Ryan was visibly flabbergasted. "What new program?" "She didn't tell you?" "She said you were working together on a design project." "Oh, that." Ryan responded quickly. "It's going well. She's a great idea." Leonard smiled. "Yes, my wife is very talented." After Ryan left, Leonard dialed the private investigator. "Keep following up. I want details of every meeting they have." When we got home in the evening, Yvonne was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Leonard hugged her from behind. "Why are you free to cook today?" "Wanted to surprise you." She turned to kiss his cheek. "Been so busy lately. Neglecting you." Leonard gazed into her eyes. "How's work going?" "Fine." She averted her eyes. "There's some trouble with that mall design project. Might have to work a few days overtime." "Can I help you?" "No, I can handle it." She smiled and changed the subject. "By the way, I heard that Vision is going to cooperate." Leonard's heart fluttered. "How did you know?" "It's all over the company." "Naturally," she replied. "That's a good thing, right?" "Maybe." Leonard was thoughtful. "But I haven't decided yet." After dinner, Yvonne's cell phone rang. She glanced at it and her expression changed slightly. "There's an emergency with the design team. I have to go to the office." "This late?" Leonard asked. "Catching up on work? Be back soon." She hurriedly grabbed her bag. "Don't wait for me, sleepy." Leonard watched her leave and immediately dialed the detective. "Follow her." Half an hour later, the detective sent word that Yvonne had entered a fancy downtown hotel. Leonard gripped his cell phone tightly and forced himself to calm down. He opened his computer and pulled up the surveillance software he had previously installed on Yvonne's phone. The screen showed that she was in hotel room 2307. He switches to the recording function and hears Yvonne and Ryan's conversation. "Are you crazy? Telling him we're working on a joint project?" Yvonne's voice was filled with anger. "Calm down. He just asked casually and I reacted in time." Ryan soothed. "He's been acting strange lately, and I suspect he's gotten suspicious." "No way. He trusts you that much. Besides, we're careful." "Did you get that star project information?" "Got it, but it felt too easy, like it was put there on purpose." "What do you mean?" "It's like he knew I'd be looking." After a short silence, Yvonne says, "We have to be more careful. If he finds out." "Don't worry, the plan will be completed soon. When that happens, we'll get the money and leave." Leonard turned off the recording, his eyes cold. He had guessed that this was not just cheating, but a well-planned commercial espionage. He opened the safe and took out a real star project information. "This is an innovative technology that can overturn the industry and is worth a lot of money. What you want, I will give you." Leonard muttered to himself, "But at a price you cannot afford." Wednesday morning, Leonard appeared on time at the meeting with Vision Technology. The other party's CEO, William, received him personally, and his attitude was a bit too warm. "Boss, I've heard a lot about you." William shook hands and said, "Your star project is very forward-thinking and we are very interested." Leonard smiled. "Mr. Wing is flattered. However, I'm curious, how did you guys learn about the details of the project?" William was slightly embarrassed. "Industry rumors, plus some analysis of publicly available information." "Yes." Leonard looked at him meaningfully. "Then let's talk about the details of our partnership in detail today." In the conference room, Leonard presents a carefully prepared revision of the STAR project. On the surface, it looked similar to Ryan's surreptitious document, but the core technical points had been subtly replaced. "This algorithm is the core of the project." Leonard pointed to the screen. "It can increase efficiency by 30%. Greed flashed in William's eyes. "Fantastic. We're willing to put in $50 million in startup capital to co-develop it. Good to work with." Leonard held out his hand. "We'll sign a formal contract next week." Leaving the Vision building, Leonard went straight to the police's Economic Crimes Investigation Division. He had already prepared the evidence, including Ryan's surreptitious photography, the intrusion records of Vision, and the suspicious financial transactions between the executives of the two companies. "How long will it take to build a case?" Leonard asked the officer. "The evidence is overwhelming, and we can act as soon as next week." The officer replied, "However, when it comes to your family, everyone is equal before the law." Leonard said calmly, "All I ask is to be dealt with according to the law." Back at the office, Leonard calls a meeting with the core team. "From today onwards, All information on the STAR project can only be viewed at specific terminals, and any form of copying and outgoing is prohibited. He said solemnly, violators will be immediately dismissed and held legally responsible. After the meeting, Ryan approached him. Brother, I heard you went to meet with Vision? How did it go? It went well. They're willing to put in $50 million. Leonard watched his brother's expression, signing next week. Ryan couldn't hide his excitement. Great. This is a big breakthrough for the company. Yeah, but... Leonard feigned apprehension. I'm worried about technology leaks. After all, the company did have information security issues recently. You suspect a mole? Ryan asked nervously. Maybe. That's why I beefed up security. Leonard patted him on the shoulder. By the way, how's the project with you and Yuqing going? It went well. Ryan forced a smile. She's really talented. Yeah, I'm lucky to be married to her. Leonard said meaningfully. When I got home in the evening, Yvonne had dinner ready. She's even more enthusiastic than usual, even wearing Leonard's favorite dress. I heard you saw Vision today? She asked in a seemingly casual manner. Well, good talk. Leonard took a sip of his red wine. They made a good offer. That's great. A glint of Leonard's familiar light flashed in her eyes. When's the signing? Next week. Leonard put his glass down and looked her straight in the eye. Rainy, if someone betrayed me, guess what I'd do? Yvonne's hand shook slightly and his glass nearly tipped over. What do you mean? Just hypothetical. Leonard smiles. After all, the mall is a battlefield and betrayals happen. You will forgive? She asked cautiously. Leonard is silent for a moment. It depends on the extent of the betrayal and whether it's worth forgiving. Yvonne lowered her head. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. What matters is the ability to recognize the mistake and correct it. True. Leonard nodded, but some mistakes are too costly to undo. After dinner, Yvonne offers to watch a movie with Leonard. She leaned into his arms and acted unusually intimate. Leonard wrapped his arms around her and sneered in his mind. He knew that this was just a reprieve for Yvonne. She must have already told Ryan about the day, and they were reassessing the plan. Sure enough, halfway through the movie, Yvonne's phone rang. She glanced at it, and her expression changed slightly. There's another problem with the design team. I have to deal with it. Go on, Leonard said calmly. Work is important. After Yvonne leaves, Leonard turns on his computer and pulls up the location of her cell phone. Unsurprisingly, she heads straight for Ryan's apartment. Leonard sneered and dialed a number. The operation has been moved up and will be executed tomorrow. Early the next morning, Leonard was on his morning jog when his cell phone suddenly rang. It was the company's security supervisor. Boss, it's not good. Someone broke into the classified lab and took away the core prototype of the STAR program. Leonard stopped. Where's the surveillance? Vandalized, but access records show that Mr. Ryan's access card was used. Leonard's eyes went cold. Call the police immediately. I'll be at the office in a minute. By the time he arrives at the office, the police are already there. Leonard heads straight to the surveillance room and pulls up the footage from the backup camera. Despite the poor angle, a familiar figure could be vaguely seen sneaking into the lab, none other than Ryan. Boss, you need to see this. The technical supervisor handed him a report. The system was compromised last night. Someone copied all the data from the STAR project. The IP address traced back to Mr. Ryan's home network. Leonard took a deep breath. Keep investigating. I'm going to the station. At the police station, Leonard provided all the evidence. The police immediately issued an arrest warrant for Ryan and also froze all his accounts. Leonard, given the complexity of the case, we may need to investigate your wife. The officer said politely. Leonard nodded. I understand. Please follow the law. Back home, Leonard finds Yvonne packing. Going somewhere? He asked, standing in the bedroom doorway. Yvonne was visibly startled. I'm going out of town for a few days on a design case. Yeah? Leonard approached her. Not to Ryan? Yvonne paled instantly. What are you talking about? Don't pretend. Leonard sneered. I know all about it. You cheated on me with Ryan and helped him steal company secrets. No, you've got it all wrong. Yvonne panicked in defense. Ryan and I just have a working relationship. Yeah? Leonard pulled out his cell phone and played the recording of them at the hotel. Yvonne sits paralyzed on the bed, tears streaming down her face. Leonard, I can explain. Explain what? Explain how you betrayed my feelings and trust? Or explain how you conspired to steal my years of hard work? It's not what you think. Yvonne cried. It was Ryan who threatened me. He said that if I didn't cooperate, he would go public with our relationship and ruin my career and marriage. Leonard sneered. So you chose to initiate the betrayal? I don't know what to do. She broke down and cried. I'm afraid of losing you, and I'm afraid of a scandal. What's the point of talking about this now? Leonard turned to leave. The police will be here soon to question you. Wait. Yvonne suddenly shouted. I have proof that Ryan is the mastermind. Leonard stopped. What evidence? He had all the plans on his computer, including how to get to me, how to use me to get to you, and the secret agreement with Vision. Yvonne said eagerly, I secretly made a copy. She removed a flash drive from the compartment of her suitcase. This has everything on it. I was going to turn myself into the police today. Leonard took the flash drive with a complicated look. Why now? I was scared. Yvonne bowed her head. I know I made an unforgivable mistake. But I want to make amends, even if you never forgive me. Leonard is silent for a moment and inserts the flash drive to view the contents. It does contain detailed plans, as well as records of Ryan's meetings with Vision executives. Even more shocking is the recording of Ryan threatening Yvonne. If you dare tell Leonard, I'll spread unflattering photos of you and ruin your career and marriage. Ryan's cold voice is chilling on the recording. Leonard turned off his computer, his expression cloudy. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. Yvonne choked out, I just want you to know that I did make a mistake, but I never meant to hurt your career. Leonard took a deep breath. I'll give this evidence to the police. As for us, need time. Just then, the doorbell rang. It's the police coming to investigate Yvonne. Yvonne, we need your assistance in the investigation regarding the Star Project leak case. The officer showed his credentials. Yvonne glanced at Leonard and nodded calmly. I'll cooperate. Leonard handed the officer the flash drive. Here's the key evidence. Please review it. The officer took the flash drive. Thank you for your cooperation, Yvonne. Please come with us. Yvonne follows the police away. Before she leaves, she looks back at Leonard with remorse and reluctance in her eyes. Leonard stood in the doorway with mixed feelings. He wasn't sure if he should believe Yvonne's explanation, but the evidence on the flash drive did turn the case around. 3 days later, Ryan was arrested at the border. The police found the core prototype of the Star Project and a large number of classified documents in his possession. At the same time, based on the evidence provided by Yvonne, a number of executives from Vision Technology were also taken away for investigation. Leonard meets Ryan in custody at the police station, and through the glass, the two brothers look each other in the eye. Why? Leonard asked simply. Ryan sneered. Why? Because I'm tired of living in your shadow forever. Father favored you, the company reused you, and even the woman I liked ended up choosing you. Yvonne raised Leonard's eyebrow. You mean you guys knew each other before? We fell in love in college. Ryan sneered, but she chose the more promising you. It took me 5 years to finally get her back to me. Leonard looked at his brother in shock. So this is all revenge? Not just revenge. Ryan sneered. I'm going to take everything you have, your company, your inventions, your wife. Give you a taste of what it's like to lose it all. What about Yvonne? Does she know about your plan? Not at first. Ryan shrugged. She thought we were just rekindling an old flame. Then she wanted out, and I threatened her with those pictures. Leonard clenched his fists. You used her. Just like you used me. Ryan shot back. Who at the company doesn't know that you always take credit for my work? I've never. Stop pretending. Ryan interrupted, "You've always looked down on me and thought I didn't deserve to be a father to you." Leonard shook his head. "You're wrong. I've always thought of you as my own brother." "Lies." Ryan snarled, "If I hadn't stolen the star, you wouldn't have even looked at me in the eye." Leonard was silent for a moment. "In any case, the law will give you the punishment you deserve." "I don't care." Ryan sneered, "At least I managed to hurt you. Yvonne will never come back to you. Your marriage is over." Leonard turned away. "We'll see." Leaving the station, Leonard heads straight to the hospital. Yvonne has an emotional breakdown during the interrogation and is taken to the hospital for treatment. In the hospital room, Yvonne lies haggardly on the bed. When she sees Leonard enter, she reluctantly sits up. "The police told me that Ryan was arrested." Leonard nodded. He admitted everything, including your past. Yvonne lowered her head. "I should have told you. I did date him in college, but it was a long breakup. 5 years ago he suddenly reappeared and said he wanted to make up. I refused because I had fallen in love with you. And then what? After the 3rd year of marriage, he started threatening me." Yvonne choked back a sob. "He had intimate photos of us from back then and threatened to make them public. I was afraid the scandal would ruin my career and our marriage." "So you chose to give in?" Leonard asked in a cold voice. I just pretended to say yes at first, trying to find a chance to get the photos back," she said painfully, but he went further and further, demanding that I help him steal company secrets. "When I refused, he threatened to hurt you." Leonard sneered. "So you're trying to protect me?" "I know it sounds ridiculous." Yvonne smiled bitterly, "But I really don't know what to do. Tell you the truth, and I might lose you. Don't go along with Ryan, and he might hurt you or ruin everything for us. You've had a million chances to tell me." Leonard's voice trailed off. I was afraid." Tears slid down her cheeks, afraid to see the disappointment and disgust in your eyes. "I'd rather bear it all myself." Leonard was silent for a long time. "The police said that you were the one who volunteered key evidence to help solve the case. Because I can't go on any longer." Yvonne looked up, straight into his eyes. "I'd rather go to jail than hurt you again." Leonard turned toward the window, his back to her. "You know what? I found out about your relationship a long time ago." Yvonne looked at him in shock. "When?" "The first time I found your texts." Leonard said calmly, "That was 3 months ago." You knew all along." "Yes. I've been pretending I didn't know and gathering evidence." Leonard turned. "I had thought that you betrayed me willingly." Yvonne bowed her head. "I am indeed guilty. For whatever reason, I betrayed your trust." "Yes, you betrayed me." Leonard's voice was icy, but Ryan's sin was worse. "Not only did he betray his family, he tried to destroy everything I had." "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Yvonne said softly. "I'll cooperate with the divorce proceedings." Leonard looked at her haggard face with mixed feelings. "The case isn't over yet. We'll talk about these things later." He turns and leaves the hospital room, leaving Yvonne alone in tears. 7. A week later, there was significant progress in the case. The police found out that Ryan had been in collusion with vision technology for a long time and had not only stolen the STAR project, but had also stolen other company secrets on several occasions. Yvonne's charges were reduced, and the prosecution decided to give her a lighter sentence, taking into account that she had acted under threat and provided evidence on her own initiative. Leonard sat in his office, looking out the window at the rain. The storm had brought considerable losses to the company, but fortunately the core technology had not really leaked. What he had given to Vision Technology was a revised proposal, and the real STAR project was still safely in his hands. The assistant knocked on the door and came in. "Boss, an emergency meeting of the board of directors is scheduled for 3 o'clock in the afternoon." Leonard nodded. "Have all the information ready." And the assistant hesitated. Mrs. Sue came by and said she had something important to talk about. Leonard frowned. "Where is she?" "The parlor awaits you." Leonard takes a deep breath and walks to the parlor. Yvonne stands by the window, even more haggard than the last time they met. "Something wrong?" Leonard asked coldly. Yvonne turned around and handed him a folder. "The divorce papers, I've signed them. I don't want all the property. I'm only taking my own things." Leonard took the folder without opening it, so urgent. Dragging it out isn't good for anyone. Yvonne forced a smile. The company has enough crises without adding another wedding scandal. "What's next for you?" "I've taken on a design project abroad, and I'm going to leave the country after a while." She bowed her head. "It's better for everyone to get out of here." Leonard was silent for a moment. "The case isn't quite over yet." "I'll cooperate to the end." Yvonne nodded. "It's the only thing I can do to make amends." Just then, Leonard's cell phone rang. It was the police calling. "Leonard, there's been an important discovery. We found a bunch of recordings and videos in Ryan's secret warehouse. You better come and see for yourself." Hanging up the phone, Leonard said to Yvonne, "The police have made a new discovery. I have to go there." "The divorce?" "Wait until the case is over." Yvonne nodded. "I'll wait for your decision." At the police station, the officer plays a recording. It was a conversation between Ryan and an unknown male voice. "How's the plan coming along?" the male voice asked. "It went well." Ryan replied, "Yvonne is completely under my control. She doesn't dare to resist because I have something on her. She's really going to help you steal the STAR program?" "She had no choice." Ryan sneered, "But just in case, I've prepared a plan B. If she backtracks, I'll fake the evidence and let all the charges fall on her head." "Aren't you afraid your brother will find out the truth?" "By the time he realizes it, it'll be too late." Ryan said triumphantly, "By then, his company is ruined, his wife is in jail, and I'm far away with the money and the technology." At the end of the recording, the officer says, "We also found evidence that Ryan faked in an attempt to frame Yvonne. In addition, those allegedly indecent photos were synthesized." Leonard looks at the officer in shock. "You mean he threatened Yvonne with a fake photo?" "Yes. Technical identification shows that those photos are highly processed composites." The officer explained, "Ryan is well versed in computer technology. This wasn't difficult for him." Leonard was silent for a long time. "Is this enough evidence to prove that Yvonne was coerced?" "It's basically certain." The officer nodded. "Together with the key evidence she volunteered, the prosecution has decided not to prosecute her." Leaving the police station, Leonard drives to Yvonne's studio. She is packing up her things for an extended departure. "The police have made a new discovery," Leonard said as he stood in the doorway. "Those pictures are fake." Yvonne looked at him in surprise. "What?" "Ryan threatened you with a composite photo." Leonard stepped closer. "He's been lying to you from the beginning." Yvonne slumped in her chair as tears came to her eyes. I can't believe I was fooled by him for so long." "Why didn't you tell me the truth sooner?" Leonard asked. "Even if those pictures were real, we could have faced them together." "I was afraid of losing you." Yvonne choked. "I know you hate betrayal. If you think I've betrayed you, even if it's just in the past, you'll leave me." Leonard was silent for a moment. "You know what? I've been suffering every day for the past 3 months. Watching my favorite person and my most trusted brother betray me and having to pretend not to know. I'm sorry." Yvonne was in tears. "I used to hate you." Leonard looked her straight in the eye. "Hated your deception, hated your betrayal. But now, I don't know." Leonard shook his head. "Too many lies and hurt. I need time." Yvonne wiped away her tears. "I understand. Whatever you decide, I accept it." Leonard turned away. "We'll talk when the case is over." The case went to court and Ryan was indicted on charges of commercial espionage and racketeering and faces a long prison sentence. A number of executives from Vision Technologies were also arrested and the company was thrown into crisis. Yvonne, on the other hand, was found to be a victim and was not prosecuted. Leonard devotes himself to his work and tries to paralyze himself with his busyness. As the company's crisis subsides and the STAR project is relaunched, things seem to be getting back on track. But his marriage remained in limbo. The divorce papers lay in a drawer and he never signed them. One night, Leonard is home alone, looking through his and Yvonne's wedding album. Every bit of the 5 years, from sweetness to bitterness, was visible. The ringing phone interrupted his thoughts. It was from the hospital. Leonard, your wife, Ms. Yvonne, has been in a car accident and is currently in emergency care. Leonard was shaken and rushed to the hospital immediately. In the hospital corridor, the doctor told him, the patient has lost too much blood and needs emergency surgery. But her blood type is rare, and the blood bank has insufficient reserves. I'm the same type as her. I can draw my blood. Leonard said immediately. In the blood draw room, the nurse asks, what are you the patient's? Leonard was silent for a moment. I'm her husband. The surgery lasted 4 hours. Leonard paced back and forth in the hallway, waiting anxiously. Finally, the doctor came out of the operating room. The surgery was successful, but the patient needs observation. She is still in a coma. Leonard stays outside the hospital room and stays awake all night. Early in the morning, the nurse tells him that Yvonne is awake. He walks into the hospital room and sees Yvonne lying weakly on the bed, her face pale. The doctor said it was your blood that saved me, she whispered. Leonard nods. How did you get into the accident? I went to see Ryan. Yvonne confessed, I want to know why he's doing this to us. What did he say? He said, he's always been jealous of you. Growing up, you always got more than him. Yvonne sighed softly. He approached me, initially just to get back at you. But then, later, he said he was really in love with me. Yvonne smiled bitterly, but I stopped loving him a long time ago. I told him that no matter what, I would never forgive him for what he did to us. Leonard was silent for a moment, and then you had an accident? On the way back, a truck suddenly went out of control. She paused. Leonard, I want to tell you something. What? I'm pregnant. Yvonne said softly, 3 months. The doctor said the baby is fine. Leonard looked at her in shock. 3 months? That's... Before all this happened. Yvonne confirmed, it was our baby. Leonard sat on the edge of the bed with mixed emotions. Why are you telling me this now? I was going to tell you on your birthday. She smiled bitterly, but by then Ryan's threats had already started. I didn't want to tell you the news under those circumstances. Leonard looked at her abdomen where their child was conceived. A myriad of emotions flooded through him, anger, sadness, confusion, and a glimmer of hope. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Yvonne said softly, if you decide to divorce, I understand. But please let me have the baby. Leonard took a deep breath. I need time to think. Leaving the hospital, Leonard drives to the beach. This is where he and Yvonne had their first date. 5 years ago, they made a promise here to be together for life. The waves lapped at the reef, as did his churning heart. The pain of betrayal, the complexity of truth, the hope of new life, all intertwined. He took out his cell phone and dialed a number he hadn't reached in a long time. Mom, I need your advice. A month later, Leonard stood outside the courtroom awaiting the final judgment in Ryan's case. The court sentenced Ryan to 10 years in prison while he was required to pay a large amount of financial damages. Walking out of the courthouse, Leonard saw Yvonne standing a short distance away. She has a noticeable bulge in her belly, but her whole body still looks haggard. Case closed, she asked softly. Leonard nodded. 10 years. I'm sorry for turning you brothers against each other. It's not your fault. Leonard sighs. He chose his own path. The two walked in silence to the parking lot. How are you thinking about it? Yvonne finally asked the question that had been hanging over her head. Leonard stopped. I figured something out. What? For the past 3 months, I've been pretending I didn't know about you guys, gathering evidence, plotting a counterattack. Leonard looked away. I thought it would protect me from myself. But the truth is, I've been suffering every day. I'm sorry. No, let me finish. Leonard turned to her. Pretending not to know the truth won't make the pain go away. Instead, it will eat away at you like poison day after day. Yvonne bowed her head. Me too. This period of hiding the truth was the darkest time of my life. We both made the same mistake. Leonard smiled bitterly. Both chose to hide it rather than be honest. So now what? Yvonne asked cautiously. What do we do? Leonard pulled the divorce papers out of his pocket. About that. Yvonne's heart sank, but she forced herself to remain calm. I understand. Leonard tore the agreement in half. I think we can start over. Yvonne couldn't believe her ears. You're willing to forgive me. It's not forgiveness. Leonard shook his head. It's getting to know each other again. Past hurts don't go away, but we can learn from them and become more honest. Tears slid down Yvonne's cheeks. I don't know what to say. Nothing needs to be said. Leonard said softly. We have a long way to go. For our children, and for ourselves. He held out his hand and Yvonne hesitated, gently taking it. Go home, Leonard said. Back at home, Leonard helps Yvonne clean up the bedroom that hasn't been occupied in a while. I've been living in the studio this whole time, she explained, too afraid to come back and face it all. Leonard nodded. I understand. At dinner, the two talked carefully, like strangers on a first date. The doctor said the baby is healthy. Yvonne said softly, it's a boy. Leonard smiled. That's good. You think of a name yet? Not yet. Leonard shook his head. We've had time to take our time and think about it. It was late at night and Leonard prepared the guest room for Yvonne. You need to rest. Yvonne nodded. Thanks. Before going to bed, she hesitantly asked, Leonard, do you really believe we can start over? Leonard pondered for a moment. I don't know. But I'm willing to try. Why? Because? Leonard looked her in the eyes. Because despite everything that's happened, I realized that I still love you. It may be stupid, but it's the truth. Yvonne was in tears. I love you too. Always have. Leonard gently closed the door. Good night. Back in his bedroom, Leonard lay on his bed, his thoughts racing. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that today was a new beginning. 6 months later, Leonard stood outside the delivery room, waiting anxiously. At 3 a.m., the doctor finally stepped out. Congratulations, it's a healthy boy. Mother and child are safe. Leonard breathes a sigh of relief and walks into the hospital room. Yvonne is tired but happy, holding her newborn with a maternal glow on her face. Have you thought of a name yet? She asked softly. Leonard nodded. Daniel. New day, new beginning. Yvonne smiled. Very nice name. Leonard carefully picked up his son, feeling the weight and warmth of this new life. Over the past 6 months, he and Yvonne had rebuilt their trust in each other one step at a time. It hadn't been without arguments and tears, but they were both working on it. How's the company? Yvonne asked. The STAR program is officially online. Leonard smiles. The response has been great. Yvonne nodded. I'm proud of you. We're starting to get new orders for our design studio as well. Leonard said, you can take your time getting back to work once you're rested. Thank you. Yvonne said gratefully, thank you for this opportunity. Leonard took her hand. Thank you for not giving up. A week later, they returned home with little Daniel. A place that was once filled with lies and pain is now revitalized by the arrival of a new life. In the evening, Leonard is in his study organizing papers and finds a letter from prison. It's from Ryan. Brother, by the time you read this, I'll be serving my sentence. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just want to say I'm sorry. My jealousy and resentment ruined our kinship and almost ruined your marriage. Yvonne is innocent. She has always loved you. I hope you can start over. Goodbye. Leonard put down the letter and walked to the window. The moonlight is like water, sprinkling on the courtyard. Yvonne is walking in the garden with little Daniel in her arms. The moonlight outlines her gentle silhouette. He remembers the months. Yvonne came forward and confessed everything she was hiding, and he shared his fears and insecurities. They attended counseling together to learn how to communicate and trust. They redecorated their home to create new memories for their upcoming child. Leonard walked out of the study and into the garden. Thinking about what? he asked softly. Yvonne smiled back, thinking about our future. It's going to be wonderful, Leonard said firmly. Are you really not sorry? Yvonne asked, choosing to forgive, choosing to start over. Leonard shook his head. It's not forgiveness, it's understanding and acceptance. We've all made mistakes, we've all been hurt. The important thing is that we chose to be honest and to face it together. Yvonne leaned into his shoulder. Thank you for not giving up on us. Leonard wrapped his arms around her and the baby. We're a family. Whatever happens, we face it together. Little Daniel smiles in his sleep, as if approving of his parents' commitment. Under the moonlight, a new hope is emerging for a family once shrouded in lies and betrayal. Leonard knows that there is a long road ahead, but as long as they hold on to their sincerity and trust, they will be able to make it together. He no longer pretends not to know, but chooses to face the truth. He no longer hides his hurt, but learns to express and communicate. This is the most important lesson he has learned from this storm. I love you, he whispered to Yvonne. I love you too, she responded, always have and always will. On this night full of hope for a new life, Leonard finally lets go of all pretenses and defenses and truly embraces the complexities of life and the imperfections of love. Because he understands that true love is not the absence of hurt, but the choice to believe even after the hurt, not the absence of betrayal, but the choice to understand even after the betrayal, not the absence of lies, but the choice to be sincere even after the lies are revealed. This is their story, a story of betrayal, lies, redemption, and renewal.